Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. Great to have you here today on our Total Wellness Tuesday episode of the Cabral Concept. Excited because today we're going to take a little bit of a left turn. So instead of talking about all the amazing bioregulatory, Ayurvedic, naturopathic, what else? Traditional Chinese medicine, functional medicine, etc. All the different great forms of natural medicine. Today, we're actually going to talk about conventional medicine. Now, you might ask, why would you be talking about conventional medicine on a natural health-based show? Well, the thing I've always said is this, is that I'm not against conventional medicine in any way, shape, or form. Many of my colleagues are DOs, they are MDs, they are nurse practitioners. They are of that world of conventional medicine. They went to medical school or they went to nursing school, whatever it may be, and that is the practice that they got into. Now, almost across the board, every single medical doctor that I know, from conventional medicine, primary care physicians, specialists, etc., they are all trying to do good work and help people. They really are. Like, I can't really think of too many. There are a couple that were not necessarily the most ethical, but the vast majority are absolutely trying to help people. They're doing it in the best way that they know how. And the way that they know how is what they were taught in medical school. Well, today I'm going to share with you, though, that may not be of the patient's best interests. So what's happened is we have all of these indoctrinated medical doctors and conventional medicine practitioners that have been indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking, a reductionist way of thinking. We'll get into that in a moment, without a greater, more holistic viewpoint. And I'm not talking about holistic medicine. I'm talking about holistic as in, could all of these different heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and cancer, the top 4 leading causes of death, could those be at all related to the world around us? Food, movement, sunlight, exercise, breathing, stress. Do any of those top 4 have anything to do with that? And of course, we know that they do. But now they don't teach any of those other doctors, right? What are the other doctors? Well, they are the breath work, the sunshine, they're the movement, they're the good anti-inflammatory food you're putting in your body, right? They're the stress reduction, the meditation. They're all of those things that those aren't taught in medical school, right? So it's very, very strange, but it wasn't always that way. The thing is, most people believe that this is the way that medicine has always been, and it hasn't. It truly hasn't. So in the early 1900s, this is not how medicine was. Medicine was a much broader based approach. And I have studied the history of medicine many, many times. I studied the history of how a lot of chiropractic medicine got pushed out. I studied a lot of how the traditional naturopaths got pushed out. I studied how the bioregulatory-based doctors over in Germany and Europe got pushed out. So it's very interesting. But I never knew the full story of how we went from looking at nutrition and looking at nutrients and looking at cold-based therapy, heat therapy that, of course, now is coming full circle 100 years later, right? I didn't realize the actual story behind it. And now that I do, it makes complete sense. And I want to share that with you because you may never have been shared the story either. So I'm going to go over it right now, and I'm going to do my best to give credit where credit's due for all of this information, but it's been pieced together. And this is essentially how the pharmaceutical industry took over conventional medicine. And again, if you don't believe that that's happened, do understand that when you go to your medical doctor, now I'm not talking about a concierge medical doctor that runs a private cash-based practice that gives you access to all sorts of amazing things like nutrition and wellness-based appointments. That's not the majority of Americans. I'm talking about 99% of doctors. And when you go to your typical PCP, what are you doing? You're going and you're getting your blood work drawn maybe once a year. And you're going when something feels off. And when something feels off, what do? They run your blood work. And then if something is off, what do you get? You get a prescription for a drug, right? I don't know too many people that get a prescription for nutrition or exercise or meditation or stress reduction or, I don't know, a deeper level of looking at what's going on with their gut or any other thing. So again, that means that when you go to most medical doctors, and again, I don't want to offend any of my amazing colleagues who are doing amazing integrative-based work, but for the majority of medical doctors, you go there, you come in with X disease, right? And you get Y pharmaceutical. High cholesterol, you're given a statin. High blood pressure, beta blocker, calcium channel blocker, diuretics, etc. Okay, you come in with type 2 diabetes, well, you're giving what? Metformin, or you're given some type of insulin modulating based drug. What else? You go to even a psychiatrist. What are you getting? Well, you're getting Klonopin, Wellbutrin, you name it, right? So again, it's you come in with this and you're getting a pharmaceutical. That is how conventional medicine doctors are taught. And that is actually what health insurance pays for. So it's all in cahoots. Well, how did this happen? Because it wasn't always that way. And it wasn't that way even 100 years ago. Here's what happened. And here's how BigPharma took over. So, and again, I'm not radically against pharmaceutical drugs. I want to say that as well. I believe pharmaceutical drugs are amazing in life-saving based situations. Do I think that the first thing someone should do with high cholesterol is go on a statin drug? No, I don't. And if you don't understand how genetics are not the end-all be-all, please listen to previous podcasts. Because if you didn't have high cholesterol at 12 years old, why do you have it at 38 years old, right? What changed? Oh, did your genetics just turn on? Because you had the same genetics. So they did turn on. Why? Well, that's called epigenetics. That's influenced by, essentially, the rain barrel effect. So again, we need to go deeper on this. If you didn't have high blood pressure at 8 years old, high cholesterol, if you didn't have the autoimmune disorder, if you didn't have any of these things, again, you don't need to have them ever in your life. I had rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune issue, right? I had type 2 diabetes, blood sugar issue. I had Addison's disease. I had POTS. I've had all sorts of things, allergies, etc. Why don't I have them anymore? Well, I had them at 17 to basically 27 years old. Why did they stop at 27? Right? And I haven't had them now for an additional 15 plus years. Again, there has to be reasons, right? I have the same genetics. So I just want to state that in the beginning so you understand that I'm not against conventional medicine. I'm not against emergency medicine especially, and I'm not against pharmaceuticals. There's a time and place for everything, right? Life-saving condition, totally get it, totally understand. All right, so here's the thing. A couple families you may have heard before. The Rockefellers and the Carnegies. They were big influencers in the United States in different fields, but they had their hand in medicine and essentially pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceuticals back then would be, well, certain specific drugs, they would be surgeries, and they would also be radiation. Those were essentially the bigger things coming about, and they had their investments in that. So what they did was they went to medical schools, and they said to these medical schools, we will offer you financial grants to be able to build new buildings, new classrooms, invest in technology, invest in teachers. Seemed like a really noble thing. The schools said, well, and the vast majority of schools said, that sounds great. We'll take the investment. And then those two families said, okay, well, we're happy to provide that investment. And we just want to make sure, if it's not a big deal with you, that we're going to have 2 or 3 of our members sit on your board. So now right away, there might be a board of, let's say, 5 people, or maybe there's 8 people. So now they have members of their board, of their people sitting on the board. And the board, if you're not familiar with that for a business, and a school is a business, it's a private business, these are not typically the state-run ones, is that they are making business decisions for the school. If the school's a business, then it needs to be able to make money. So when decisions were then made each quarter, it got brought to the board. And the board, of course, were representatives of the Rockefeller and Carnegies. And they said, well, what do you think about if we start to do this? And they said, in exchange for additional investments, we would like more of this to be taught in the education. And that would be for specific pharmaceuticals that they had interest in, specific surgeries, needed or not needed, as well as radiation-based. Again, and I'm not saying that there's not a time and place for that as well. All I'm saying is this is how it happened. So when they started to receive these new large grants, they needed additional money now for incoming students, for additional teachers. That led to then the actual implementation of certain teachings to the students. Who are the students? The students are the future doctors of America, right? And the future doctors of the world. Many people have been trained in the United States. And then, of course, pharmaceutical industries popped up all over the world. And so what happened, though, is that this never actually stopped. And a lot of us would find this really hard to believe. But what was happening was the nutrition and the movement and the other things that would have been taught were becoming dropped in terms of one reductionist way of looking at overall health. That means that the body was broken up into certain pieces. There was the cardiologist, the pulmonologist for the lungs, the podiatrist for the foot, the endocrinologist for the hormones, right? So everything was specifically broken up. And so nothing was looked at necessarily as a whole. And that is because it didn't necessarily need to be looked at as a whole, because if you had a thyroid issue, well, we could either just radiate the thyroid, right, to destroy it. We could surgically remove it, or we could do what? We could give you thyroid-based hormone or radioactive-based hormone and actually destroy the thyroid. So there are different ways of looking at it like that. Instead of saying, oh, the thyroid's in balance, why would the thyroid be in balance? Well, maybe there's a gut-based issue, which leads to 90% of all autoimmune issues. Maybe there's a food sensitivity-based issue. Maybe there's a specific mineral-based deficiency, such as a selenium. Maybe there's a vitamin-based deficiency, such as vitamin B6, right? So we have to understand is that all of that was forgotten then in terms of being dropped for one very simplistic way of looking at the body. If this is the disease pathology, this is how the person, or not even how they got sick, this is how they are sick, then this pharmaceutical is given because this is enabled to shut down these symptoms. Now, again, after this was being transitioned, what they also did was smear campaigns on every other doctor and form of medicine that was not practicing what was called now scientific-based medicine. So all of the medicine that was being done before, and is still done to this day in different ways, was all called quackery. I'm sure you've, of course, heard that name before. And that was the way to basically mock or ridicule anyone that was not following along with this new form of medicine. That also then essentially filtered into the consumer health-based space. So, of course, they wanted to go with this one form when this was being denigrated in all sorts of different newspapers back then. And also, then the health insurance was only now, which was beginning to come up, was now only paying for conventional medicine-based treatments. So that is essentially how it came about. And you might say, well, that was then and this is now, and so things are different. Well, we now know that less than 5% of all medical schools or medical school students, meaning doctors, take any course in nutrition. And the ones that do typically take 1 4-hour nutrition-based course. What can you learn in 4 hours of nutrition? Well, about as much as anybody's learned in 4 hours of nutrition. Like, most people have read a book on nutrition. I bet it took you 4 hours, right? Like, I mean, so that's about it. And is it ever used? No, it's not. And of course, is it detailed? Is it nuanced? It's not. But I want to share you with some additional stats. And I think that you'll find this really, really unsettling. So in 2008, the American Medical Student Association, in collaboration with the Pew Charitable Trust, uncovered just how extensively pharmaceutical companies influence medical institutions in the U.S. This is, by the way, just what, 14-something years? It's 2008. So the AMSA created a conflict of interest scorecard to show how ethically academia was interacting with the pharmaceutical business. And by the way, this goes all the way up to Harvard University, right? So best of the best medical schools. 40 out of 150 schools received an F, including Harvard, which had no conflict of interest policies in place. Less than 15% of medical schools scored an A or B, insinuating that the overwhelming majority of doctors have received a severely skewed education. Now, since then, many have put conflict of interest protocols in place. That's a good thing. But I mean, we're talking about doctors that have just graduated over the last decade, right? But they're still only taught pharmaceuticals, but it's not as heavily infiltrated. Let me give you a few more. Presently, the pharmaceutical industry funds about half the costs of continuing medical education. So all doctors including non-medical doctors like myself, need to get CMEs, right? Continuing medical education, or for us, it's just continuing education units, not saying conventional medicine based. So they fund the vast majority of it, like literally the vast majority. And here's why. And by the way, this is in PubMed. So anybody who thinks that I'm, giving some conspiracy theory, I'm not. Like this is literally, I'm giving you all of the different quotes. So on PubMed, it says the industry, meaning pharmaceutical industry, believes that it will recoup $3.56 in increased sales for every dollar that invests in continuing medical education with doctors. So that means if they put in $1 for all of these seminars that they give doctors and fly them to and give them meals, they will make $3.56 in return. That's a pretty fantastic return, right? I don't know if the math on that is 356% or so, but it's a lot of money, right? So let me give you a couple more. More than $2 billion a year was paid by pharma companies to doctors, fueling an increase in prescriptions, according to the new report published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. Yes, that's it, conventional medicine. 76% of doctors received some kind of payment from 2015 to 2017. And yes, I will link all of these up at stephencabral.com/2314. All right, next up. This was on a website called propublica.org. We found over 700 doctors who were paid more than $1 million by drug and medical device companies. More than 2,500 doctors, more than 2,500 physicians have received at least $500,000. Let's see this. Just another one by BigPharma, believing they'll receive at least 164% on their investment. That's on WebMD.com, by the way, WebMD.com, right? That's conventional medicine based. Between 2013 and 2018, almost 592,000 payments that totaled more than $20 million were made to physicians who prescribed stimulants like Adderall. According to the study, just over 55,000 physicians received payments from pharmaceutical companies. So again, we know how big Adderall is and stimulants inside of even the children ADD based needs as well. Another one, over $2 billion a year from drug company payments and gifts to prescribing physicians. And the last one I have for you, of the nearly $30 billion that health companies now spend on marketing each year, that's $30 billion with a B on medical marketing, right? This is medical pharmaceutical drug marketing. Around 68%, more than 2/3, or about $20 billion goes to persuading doctors and other medical professionals, not consumers, of the benefits of prescription drugs. So that's according to an in-depth analysis in JAMA, right? One of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious medical journal in the world. So why am I sharing this with you? Well, when the largest, I'm not going to, I guess I can. I won't name the pharmaceutical company, but I posted this just a couple months back on my Instagram. They could find the largest amount of money in the history of court cases. I believe it was a couple $1 billion for fraud. So I just want to share with you that while conventional medicine loves to take shots at all things natural medicine, again, even though there's all sorts of, anything that you want, there's a clinical studied and published studied on it as well. We have to understand is that I and many other natural health practitioners are not against conventional medicine. But we do need to understand that conventional medicine needs to be a little bit more open to natural-based medicine and natural-based health. And this goes for medical doctors as well. And that's not because medical doctors aren't doing amazing work. They are. But they are one piece of the puzzle. If we truly want to help people, if we truly want to do no harm, right? And we know pharmaceutical drugs do harm, right? So if we truly want to do no harm and we have the best interests of our wellness clients and patients in mind, we absolutely need to be making sure that each person has their PCP and medical doctor, but they also have some type of wellness-based practitioner they're working with. Because if they don't, all they're receiving is a small piece of the puzzle that has been now indoctrinated over the last 100 years in medical schools to specifically recommend surgical, radiation or radiology-based, and pharmaceutical-based interventions only, with complete disregard of nutrition, nutritional supplements, breath work, meditation, stress reduction, heat therapy, cold therapy, and more. And again, we know these things clinically work now, yet they're not being taught in medical school. So I just wanted to share that with you today as simply a different perspective on how you can be the best advocate of your own health. If your medical doctor is not going to share with you other natural health-based modalities, it is up to you to be your own advocate. It's up to you to make sure you ask for how could nutrition and movement and exercise and stress reduction and looking at gut health and looking at vitamin deficiencies and mineral deficiencies, how could this affect your overall health? But please remember that your medical doctor will not have the answers to those questions because they have not been trained in them. And that's okay. I haven't been trained in open heart surgery. I don't even know how to properly, if you came in with, let's say, a wound that required 30 stitches, how to properly stitch that up. That's not my job, right? My job is on the natural health side, and same with thousands of other natural health-based practitioners. So what I'm saying is that you're going to work on your overall health, like staying actually healthy with natural health. And then if you ever need to, again, God forbid, but if you ever need life-saving acute-based therapies, that is what conventional medicine is best at. Not for chronic-based conditions, right? That's just modulating and dampening symptoms. But if you want to actually get better at a deep underlying root cause level, you need to figure out why that is. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, it's not meant to be condemning to conventional medicine. It's to better understand what it is, its applications, and to understand it's also not the end-all be-all. So again, hopefully this was helpful, and if it was, of course, do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.